All right, so we are moving into Pythagorean triples. So we haven't necessarily gotten into Pythagorean's theorem. You've probably seen it in algebra at some point, but it's a squared plus b squared equals c squared. And we're actually going to do more about that coming up shortly. But what we're looking at when we're looking at Pythagorean triples is trying to decide if we are going to have an acute triangle, a right triangle, or an acute triangle. I don't know if I said that. Acute, obtuse, or right. There you go. That's what we're doing. So if it looks like this, where a squared plus b squared equals c squared, that's going to be a right triangle. If we have a squared plus b squared is greater than c squared, it's actually going to be an acute triangle. And then if we have a squared plus b squared is less than c squared, that's going to be an obtuse triangle. Okay. And I know it sounds a little bit backwards, but let's think about what's going on here. If we have two sides that are greater than the third side, so like if I have this side, and then it's greater than this side, that means that my angle here, all of these are going to be acute. And if I have two sides that are less than the third side, so it's going to be like short, short, and then really long, that's where I'm going to have that obtuse belly. Okay. So let's look at this. You're definitely going to need a calculator for this one. Remember, when it's talking about being squared, it means multiplied by itself, not times two. So that's another trick to make sure you pay attention to. So when we're talking here about Sally and she wants to build a right triangle, that means we know it needs to be a squared plus b squared is equal to c squared. Okay. C squared is always going to be your longest side. So any of these, whether it's an acute, acute, right, or obtuse, c squared is always going to be your longest, right? So I'm going to use this as A, B, C. Okay. So basically what we're going to do is 7 squared plus 24 squared and see if it equals 30 squared. Okay. So we know 7 times 7 is 49. And I'm going to put 24 times 24 in my calculator, or 24 squared is 576. And then I'm going to do 30 squared, or 30 times 30, which is 900. Well, this is not going to equal 900 when I add those together. And that's what we need if it's a right triangle. It means that they're equal to the long side. So this is not going to be my answer. Now, what kind of triangle is it going to be? Let's look at that. So if I do 576 plus 49, that's going to get me 625, which is less than 900. So if I come over here to my little written out example here, that means that I'm actually going to have an obtuse triangle with that one. Okay, let's look at the next one because we're looking for the right triangle. So again, double check that you have these in the right order. Your longest one is always going to be C. And then these two really aren't going to matter. Okay, so we're going to have 16 squared and 57 squared. And we're going to add those together and see what happens with 65 squared. Okay, so again, we're going to use our calculator because I don't know those off the top of my head. I don't think you would either. So that's going to get me, I'm going to do it over here, 256 plus 57 squared is 3,249. And we're going to see 65 squared is 4,225. Okay, so I'm going to take the 3,249, add it to 256, and that actually gets me 3,505. Compared to this, it is less than, right? So when I come over here, less than means, again, it's going to be an obtuse triangle. So we got to keep going because it doesn't want obtuse. It wants acute. Sorry, I accidentally deleted that. Okay, let's look at the third one. This one has 89 at the front, so be careful with that. That's going to be your C, and A and B is going to be either of these two. So be real careful there. So that's going to be 39 squared plus 69 squared, and see how it compares to 89 squared. So let's do 39 times 39 is 1521. And 69 times 69 is 4761. We're going to add those together and get 6282. And we're going to compare it to 89 squared. which is 7921. So when we're looking at 7921 compared to 68 or 6282, that's less than. So yet again, we have an obtuse triangle. Okay, so that means our answer's got to be this one, right? But let's just do the math just to make sure we didn't make any mistakes. Again, 29 is going to be my C. And then I have 20 and 21 squared. We're going to add those together and see how they compare. So 20 times 20 is 400. 21 squared is 21 times 21, which is 441. And we're going to compare that to 29 squared is 841. So if we have 841 and then these two add up to 841, they're equal to each other, which is what it tells us for a right triangle. A squared plus B squared equals C squared. Okay, so could be a lot of work rolling into this. Okay, let's erase just this side because I don't want to have to erase and rewrite all of that key over there. And again, you might want to write this stuff over here on the left-hand side of the screen down so you have it to refer to as you're going through this stuff here. Okay, so this one says, select the word that best describes the triangle. So again, our longest side is 330, so that's going to be C. And we just want to know, is it acute, right, or obtuse? Okay, so you could look at this and see that one's a little bit tricky. That's a little bit, it doesn't give me the box, so it could be a right, but it shouldn't be because it's not there. It might be obtuse, it might be acute. So that one's a little bit tricky. So that one we definitely have to do the math. We're just going to choose AB. It's not going to matter for AB. The one that you do have to pay attention to is the longest one is always C. So 240 squared plus 275 squared, and see how it compares to 330 squared. So again, 240 times 240 is what 240 squared means. That's 57,600. And then 275 times 275 is 75,625. And since I already have that in my calculator, I'm just going to add these two together so I don't have to retype all of that. Okay, so that's what all of that equals. And then 330 squared is 108,900. So that is definitely larger than this. And when it's larger than the C squared, that means that it's an acute triangle. Okay. Let's make sure. Yeah, A. There we go. Right. Same thing on this one. We've got to identify which ones are A, B, and C. Again, remember, A and B, it doesn't really matter. C is the one that we have to really pay attention to. The longest side is always going to be your C. So that means this is going to be C. Oh, we have two sides that are the same. So we're going to have 20 squared plus 20 squared and see what that gets us compared to 25 squared. So 20 times 20 is 400. And that means 400 plus 400 is 800. And 25 times 25 equals 625. So 800 is definitely greater than 625. Remember, this eats the bigger one. So that's going to be an acute triangle again. All right, let's check our answer. It's A, which is acute. Okay. This one here, it doesn't give us the drawing. So again, my recommendation is always use the drawing or label it as it is. So it says a triangle has these side lengths. So our longest one has got to be this one, right? So I'm not going to draw it out this time because I know we just need to take the two shorter sides, find the square roots of them, and see how it compares to the longest side. So 195 times 195 is 38,025. And 345 and 345. And again, it's already in my calculator, so I'm just going to add those two together, which gets me this. And then compare it to 445 squared. So let's see, 157 is definitely less than. And when it's less than, it's going to be an obtuse triangle. Right, the two sides are shorter than the third. Okay, so hopefully that helps understand what to do. Definitely utilize this little key over here. And other than that, if you need help, we'll schedule time. If not, 10 points, get more math.